And we're recording.
So welcome everybody. This is the weekly Dev call for Helm on Thursday, the 11th of April, 2019. So this is how we're going to roll. We're going to start with announcements. Then we're going to have stand-up discussions, and then we'll finish off with assignments. And if anybody wants to come in at any stage, that's okay. So let's kick off with some announcements. And I'm going to hand over to Michelle to talk about the Helm Summit EU.
Yeah, so just a few things, just to get everybody on the same page on where we are. The Helm Summit update is as follows. The Helm Summit Program Committee forum is now closed. I've been working with the co-chairs, Fisher and Adam, to get together a program committee as well as a third co-chair to add to the co-chair group. Or the chair group. So those emails will be sent out in a few days. So be looking forward to that if you applied. The Helm venue and dates have also been confirmed for September 11th to 12th in Amsterdam. And the Helm Summit website will be launched probably next week along with the CFP forum. So be thinking of topics for sessions and lightning talks, and we'll also have room for workshops and tutorials on day 2. So if you're interested in doing one of those, feel free to submit for that. That's all I have and can remember. Fisher, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. That was actually quite concise. I think that covered everything. Yeah, I think we're just squaring away the last few details before the website goes live at this point. We're just trying to get some of the last description information, kind of getting the logos and all that kind of stuff and passing them off to the CNC app so that we can get the website live and start accepting CFPs.
Yep, so that's all we got for y'all. And feel free to shoot over any questions in the Helm Dev or Helm Users channel to any one of us. Adam is out, but Fisher and I have been on it, so feel free to ask any questions.
Yeah, and if you need any help on it, just reach out to myself as well. Okay. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Matt. So let's go to stand-ups. So I'm going to go in the order of pictures. So Taylor.
Great. Somehow I ended up first. So anyway, I was doing issue triaging and PR triaging stuff and labeling this week. Martin helped out a lot with that, so thanks, Martin. And then now I have like 3 or 4 PRs. I think 3 PRs I signed up to, and an issue I'm going to try to duplicate this coming week. So that's what I'm going to do, is kind of work on those. I'm going to try to get through some of the PRs and stuff tomorrow. There is a PR that's out there that I don't know enough Bash to feel comfortable reviewing, but it looks super handy. It's tab completion for Helm commands and whatnot. So if somebody wants to review that who is comfortable with Bash, that'd be great. I just dropped it in the chat, but that one looked like it was just a super handy one to have, and I just didn't have necessarily the Bash chops to be absolutely certain that it was good or not. So that's on there, and I think that's it for me. So I will pass it off. If the next order in my pictures is Josh, so go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so same for me. I'm trying to figure out what's the order because I came late. So I've been out of town taking a holiday. I was very happy to see Martin's maintainer now. He's been chopping wood for quite some time. I'm working now on the Helm login. So the Auras library, which is like the middle layer for Helm registry OCI stuff, just got merged last night. And so basically what that means is it essentially is a wrapper around the Docker auth, but we can put it in its own credentials file, so we can have like Helm home credentials versus Docker config. And I want to also talk about, I'll bring it up later, but we may want to think about if you've already logged in with Docker to a registry, and that registry then supports new artifacts, we should probably just allow you to continue to auth, but we can talk more. Matt Butcher is next for me.
Okay, so two things I've been working on this week have been related to the timeline for Helm and related to the Lua stuff. So on the timeline side, it appears that here's our current schedule. KubeCon will be Alpha 1. Things seem to be relatively unblocked for getting that in. Then after KubeCon, we'll be transitioning to probably future alpha releases. We'll probably have 3-ish. And during that time, that'll be where we're adding the remaining features. So Alpha 1 should be usable, should have the big features like no tiller and the reorganized actions package and all the ORAS-backed registry stuff and things like that. Then with Alpha 2, we'll add Lua, and with Alpha 3, we'll go through the hook system and stuff like that. So that puts us roughly somewhere in the July-August timeframe when we switch to beta. As soon as we switch to beta, I'm going to have CNCF come in and do a security audit. They hire a third-party auditor, and that auditor comes in and reviews the code. And this is part of what CNCF provides. That is actually our last milestone to move us from Sandbox into a full-fledged repo anyway. So CNCF has been anxious to do that, and we can basically kill two birds with one stone by getting the Helm project closer to graduating out of incubation, and also getting an external view on the security of Helm 3 before it gets released. So I'm pretty excited about that, and that puts our final our release candidates into the very, very early part of fall. So that's our current schedule for how things are going. It appears to be unblocked from the research I've been doing and checking in with everybody. So I'm pretty excited about that. Granted, this is an open source project, so things change as people come and go and things like that. Second thing, Brian and I paired on Lua for a long time yesterday. Standard library is just about done. We've modeled out the hooks, a way of hooking everything in. But unfortunately, we also hit a kind of major bug. Brian found a stack corruption problem in deep recursion, and that's actually a fairly substantial problem. So he's working on fixing up that. It was just the stack wasn't getting copied correctly in some cases. So once that's fixed in the core Lua engine, he'll be unblocked, and we'll keep going about working on that. He and I are checking in on that about every Wednesday, actually, is when we check in and pair on any outstanding issues. And then Adam, of course, out with the flu this week, poor guy. So I haven't had a chance to check in with him, but if you see him online, tell him not to puke on your keyboard or something. I don't know. That's me being sensitive. Other Matt, you want to go?
Sure. Just finished up the notes there. I was just trying to capture everything.
You didn't put the puking on your keyboard part in there, did you?
Yeah. So this week has been, I actually got a list on this because I've got a couple of things that I've been working on. So one of the things, like with Michelle, we were working on the co-chair and the program committee stuff. So getting that all squared away was one of the things. Earlier this week, I was pairing with Josh on the ORAS project, just kind of getting up to speed on what things that we need to do on the ORAS project. And I'm really happy, actually, that he went and got merged with that ORAS log and stuff. So that's great. We should do I'm really curious to see the credential helpers and see like how Docker interacts with them, if it's actually embedded inside the Docker CLI or if it's something that we have.
I will bring this up in discussion.
Cool. Because I'd love to see like what we need to do to handle that inside of like Helm login and that kind of stuff. So that's the other thing that I was just like thinking of for the week, but it's an alpha. So I mean, that's something okay. So I guess it's just mostly a matter of bumping ORAS up in Helm and supporting Helm login and Helm logout and all those kind of things, same as what ORAS does. So that's great. Martin asked me if I could review 5441. I have been wanting to get back to that. I just haven't been able to because I've also been pairing with Ronan. Ronan has been kind of like working on the Helm website, and one of the things that he pointed out was that we needed to get some kind of like the alpha documentation available and ready for KubeCon, so then when people actually get Helm 3, they have documentation to go and look and see, like, here's the migration changes, here's kind of like the concepts that have changed. And if you want to make changes to the documentation, that's available too. So I've been working with him to figure out how we can basically like tab switch between different versions of Helm, in the sense of like you can have version 2.14 as well as version 3.00 alpha 1. And just like by clicking a drop down button, that shows you the different version of the documentation. So fun stuff around there with Hugo that we're playing around with. Aside from that, that is what I've been working on this week. So next week I want to continue working on that with Ronan, and then I'll get back to 5441 and the other PR review stuff. And then I've got a couple of other Helm 3 PRs that are in the backlog for the alpha that I'd like to get back to and clean up, so then we can try and see if we can review those and get those in before then. But it's not, those are just like nice to haves at this point. It's not blocking the alpha from going through. So overall, we're in pretty great shape. That's about it from my side. So I think
is 5451 the right number?
5441.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one on library charts. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was about not rendering the templates inside of a library chart, right, Martin?
Yeah, if you want to use an application chart as a library chart, so going both ways, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think that's it for me. So jump back to Martin.
Okay, thank you. So this week...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Martin.
Oh, do you want to go ahead?
No, I'll wait.
Okay. I'll get you in a second there. So I was doing some PR reviews this week, and I was also looking at some issues, giving feedback, and got to close out some of those issues. I did some triaging as well, and I also got to, I jumped in on the migration doc. So I'm after kicking off a draft PR on that. So it's an open work in progress. And yeah, definitely if anyone has time and got feedback, jump into it. And we just try and build the doc as we go along. And it can be done in conjunction with any tools we may do for migrating across. And it's just, I suppose it'll help us build up the documentation towards, when we're going towards V3 for our users and so forth. So yeah, it's just kind of a starting point.
Yeah, so the other thing I'll also add in here is that I've been working on a Helm 3 blog post that also talks about some of the higher level changes that are happening in Helm 3, like the chart dependency system that got changed over, some things here and there. So that would be great material to eventually funnel over into that document as well. So we can take a look at that as well.
Yeah, and just bear in mind when I'm going to put stuff in there, and if I know it's not totally right, I'm going to put it in there because I prefer to put it there and then get shut down afterwards, rather than. And as I said before, I'm not sensitive, so if you shoot me down, I'm okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, and I think it'll be great because we'll be able to build it into different media, as you said, with the blog post and everything, and also the other docs we come afterwards, so we can work from there. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Michelle.
Yeah, I freaked out because in some meetings, like the host goes last, and then yeah. Anyways, okay. So I've been working on Helm Summit stuff with Matt Fisher and Karen and everybody else. Adam also last week. So that was one thing, and then I've been working on the Helm test stuff. And when I picked that back up this week, I realized I discovered two potential issues. One possible bug with chart rendering, and then I wanted to go bump the Nginx example to use the right API version, or like an updated API version, apps v1, and then I ran into like a label selector error, and so I was hunting that down as well. So those are I'm just hunting down those two weird issues before going back up and finishing that Helm test run feature. That's it. Scott, have you gone? Do you want to go?
Hey, sure. I have not gone. Hey, I also would love to follow up with you about the label selector issue. We ran into some interesting immutability problems, several kinds of them in the charts repo. So maybe there's some overlap. We can connect later. Yeah, so for me, I have been helping Reinhard and the new person, Jacob, with the charts testing. The charts testing project, I mean, and some of the setup for that. One of the things I have not been to these meetings for a few weeks, sorry about that. Life took over, but one thing I mentioned, I think maybe 3 weeks ago or more, maybe a month ago, is that I was working to automate the Helm hub. It really shouldn't take that long, but I did run into a blocker with Azure Service Principals, and I talked to Ralph Swillis, who's setting me up with an Azure person I talked to today. So I realize there's probably a lot of info or knowledge on this team, but I didn't want to bug you all with it if there were other people who could help. So I'll keep you posted when that's done.
You'd actually quite surprised. A lot of us are strictly using like open source technologies, and we're not necessarily like testing day to day on Azure infrastructure. But yeah,
yeah, I wasn't sure. But
definitely reach out to Ralph and figure out who's great on his end to figure out that kind of those questions.
Cool. So for now, that's it for me. Except I'll see whoever's going to KubeCon Barcelona, and I'm looking forward to the Helm Summit.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. I think that's every one of the core maintainers. So I'll just open the floor. Does anyone from the contributor community want to say anything? Okay, we'll move on to discussions. And I think Matt Fisher has a discussion around a new Slack channel. So I'll hand it over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I think Michelle has already answered this actually in the document. So just to give a quick background context a little bit so people who can't see the doc. So Scott asked earlier this week or last week about creating a new channel for the charts testing project. And because we're now part of the CNCF, I actually didn't know if we were still having to create channels on the Kubernetes channel. Also opened up a good question about should we open up a channel on the CNCF Slack. And so that brought up a good discussion about like, from Lockie and everyone else on like, what is the intent of the CNCF Slack versus the Kubernetes Slack and versus anything else. And so it sounds like, based on the question, Marshall, you've already reached out to Paris to ask about creating a charts testing channel?
We have not. There's a process. I'll like put the link in here. So all we have to do is open up an issue. You're on the chart testing project, right, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, I just pasted those guidelines, and it seems like you just got to open up an issue, and they'll figure it out. So,
thank you.
Before I would just like DM Paris or Sarah Novotny before that and ask for a channel, but they have a whole process now, so I don't want to bother them out of band and stuff.
Yeah, it always seemed a little bit awkward just to be like PMing them at a random time of the day, just like, hey, can you create me a channel? So yeah, it's great that they have a process for that now. Thank you, Michelle, for pointing that out. So discussion done. Thank you.
Just one other thing I just want to add, like, we were talking about creating like, or using the CNCF Slack. Was that part of the discussion last week when you brought it up, Matt Fisher?
Yes, that was part of the discussion, and Lockie had mentioned that it actually is not meant for that case. It's not meant for ecosystem projects to create channels on. It's only intended for like CNCF, like the Technical Oversight Committee. It's meant for like ad hoc channels here and there, but it's not actually meant to be like a landing page for CNCF projects to create channels for communities.
So really quick, can you repeat though, are we trying to migrate to this new third Slack?
No, so I created and parked on the CNCF Helm Slack channel just in case. So the reason behind that was I was just wanting to make sure that if the Kubernetes Slack, like we were getting back from the Kubernetes organization saying, hey, we actually are having enough of a trouble to manage our own Slack communication channels that we don't want to take on another CNCF ecosystem projects channels. That I was holding on to that just to make sure that if we needed to create those channels, then we could. But it seems like the Kubernetes project is happy to continue creating projects or communication channels for us for the time being. So, yeah, it was just more like I didn't want to block Scott from not being able to have a communication channel for the processing project.
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks. Any other discussion topics? Okay, so if there's nothing else, we'll go to assignments. And I see Michelle has kindly put her name forward already for notes. So that's very quick getting in there. So anyone that would like to do moderator next week?
I'd be happy to moderate.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And finally, issue Sherpa.
I can take it on. I probably won't be able to dedicate full time to it. So if someone else has some time that they can like split half and half, I'd be happy to like pair half and half on that. But you can put me down as I'll put myself down because I'm the nut.
Okay. I'm going to be out of the office, so I'll be no help to you. So I'll be on leave. So yeah, I can help tomorrow, basically.
To me as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Michelle. So if there's nothing else,
really quick, I actually meant to bring up the thing that Matt Fisher was asking about, the credentials helpers for login for Oras and Helm login. It works out of the box. So credentials helpers are when you say Docker login and you look at your config file, it says OSX cred store or something. It's the complete same thing, works out of the box. For things like Amazon registries, you have to run some AWS CLI command, and it gives you this massive password, but it's still just basic auth. So everything works.
Really? So for Helm login to work, you don't have to have the Docker CLI installed or anything like that. You just have to have...
Well, so Oras pulls in the Docker CLI code as a dependency. So, but yeah, you don't need Docker CLI at all.
Yeah, that's what I was mostly curious about, is that I thought that the credential helpers were a separate binary, separate from like the Docker CLI or things, and that was how the connection happened. I didn't think it was like part of the Docker CLI SDK, and it was like vendored in.
So I'm gonna work on vendoring Oras into Helm later today, and we'll sync. But I think we're in good shape.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, let's pair on that for sure. I'd love to see what.
Go ahead.
I'd love to see like if it works on GCR.
Looks like Taylor's moderating now, so that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the internet.
I think you just have choppy internet there, Josh.
I'm on the lowest that Comcast offers. So.
I missed the part that I was shanghaied into being the moderator, but I'm fine with that.
I have no feelings about it.
This feels like deja vu, actually, with this moderator thing between Taylor and Josh. But,
sorry, I put down Taylor. Did one of you two?
I don't care either way. I was just laughing because I looked over. I'm like, I'm moderator. Well, that happened quickly.
Voluntold. Thank you for
I'd say that was just my English, probably. Probably confused. Okay, we're just coming up to the hour. Anyone else would like to add something? Okay. Have a great Thursday. Nice weekend, and catch you all next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.